Hello and welcome to our Singles Going Steady podcast 092. This is a little addendum we put on at the beginning. This is Stephen.
And this is Adrienne. And unfortunately, there have been developments since we recorded this podcast in December.
Yes, this one is about one of the bands that's really been influential to us, and especially me in particular, the Gang of Four. And we recorded this around the beginning of the year. And then we sadly found out in February 1st, the leader and guitarist and sometimes singer of the band, Andy Gill, has sadly passed away.
Right. And, we're recording this today in July of 2020. And, of course, 2020 has just been, a rough time, right. And it's horriblous. Mm-hmm. And Andy's death is still under investigation. Mm-hmm. He became ill inexplicably, where his health declined rapidly without explanation, multiple organ failure, system failure. And the band had been touring China in December. So the speculation, since the doctors were really puzzled at the severity and the suddenness of his decline.
They said pneumonia, right?
Yeah, but the way it became, with the way it behaved on his body was not characteristic of how you would react to pneumonia and how you would respond to drugs geared towards addressing pneumonia. And his widow began to think that perhaps he was an early COVID patient. And there's a fascinating sad interview that she gives that we'll post a link to at the website, where she talks about, puts together all the evidence. She's a writer, mm-hmm. and very well placed for being, if you had to have someone survive you and figure out what had happened to you, she was she was very well equipped for that, and putting together the puzzle that perhaps there had been this small cluster of COVID infections around those connected to Gang 4, the tour, and then caring for Andy. One of the interesting things medically is there was a cluster of folks with conjunctivistis, the eye infection. Yes. Which is not something, that's a typical kid pink eye sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But people who had been involved with caring for Andy, friends and family, there was a lot of incidents of conjunctivitis. So there was clearly something going on, some sort of infection connection between people connected with him, and whether it was COVID or not, we'll find out. They're actually doing testing now on some of the tissue and samples that they have.
So this is very sad.
This in the hospital.
First time we've had to do this. We've lost another giant of post-punk music, and we believe that the podcast is more of a celebration of his life and his music. And instead of using our normal Beef People songs at the beginning and the end, we're going to play a little bit in the intro of Run the Jewels from their new record, doing The Ground Below, which has a very prominent Gang of Four sample in it. And at the end, we're going to play one of my later bands doing To Hell with Poverty. So it's all Gang of Four. It's about the yellow EP, and there's a lot of really good stuff in there. I hope you listen.
All right.
So that's that, and please enjoy the podcast, and everybody hang in there.
And listen to some Gang of Four.
RTJ, the God killer, this Tokyo, and I'm Death gun on the car dealer. Just bought a demon, I'm screaming about the car dealer. Last temptation of Mike, but I'm a God digger. Tell Beelzebub that the God don't need a job, and if I did, the oligarchs be missing, murdered, and robbed. This is Bonaparte that he paired with Tucson, and they went on a world conquest, tear your bone apart. Michael remained murderous, but still virtuous. Wait to kill the petty, you found out the church services. Not a holy man, but a moral in my perverseness. So I support the sex workers unionizing their services. You say that you don't love me, hey, I'm guessing I'ma be okay.
This is Singles Going Steady, the podcast dedicated to exploring great singles with a particular eye to the punk, new wave, and DIY eras of the last century. I'm Adrienne Meddock.
And I'm Steve McGowan. We are in a band, the Beef People. We recorded a single in 1986 on our own label, Zub Records, and we are record collectors and passionate especially about the expression of pop music perfection that is the single or sometimes EP recording. Exploring the mystery of what makes for a great single or sometimes EP is what propelled us to begin this podcast.
Albums are straight out. Albums are right out.
Yeah, well,
unless we feel like
unless we feel like talking about an album. Today is Singles Going Steady 092, and we have a very interesting band, one of my favorites, a band that doesn't sound like anybody else, really.
Right. It's hard to, there are no comparisons.
Yeah. They are called the Gang of Four. They're from Leeds, England, considered a titan among post-punk bands.
And as you might have guessed, we don't have a single we're going to talk about today, but an EP. And is it really, I think from a marketing standpoint, this was their label's attempt to break Gang of Four in the United States.
Right.
So this is a 1980 release.
It's called the Yellow
US,
EP.
Right?
Yeah,
Yellow EP. It was yellow.
Yellow cover.
Yellow cover. I remember buying this myself. Warner Brothers had several groups that it was trying to, a little bigger taste than a single. I remember very well that there was a display that had this in it.
And a couple other bands,
I'm thinking there were four, but maybe it's just the Gang of Four taking over my memory.
Right.
I don't recall what the other groups were, but it was this was the calling card.
Yes.
Hey kids, try this. Less commitment than a full album, but a little broader sampling than you would get on a single.
And the band is from Leeds in the north of England. They started off on the independent label Fast Records, and then they went to EMI. And this particular EP
in the UK.
Yes, this particular EP is the Warner Brothers American taking some of the singles and the B-sides that they did for EMI. This is in between their first record, Entertainment, which is quite a iconic, amazing record, and before their second record, Solid Gold. So it's a little bridge EP. And there are 4 songs on here. We said they were post-punk, which means they have kind of a sparse sound, very funky.
But they're also sort of angular and pointy.
Yes, very dry.
Yeah.
And a very interesting guitar tone and approach from
everything
Andy
is
Gill.
Interesting, right?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Right. Bands that we would compare them with that we've talked about probably would be Pylon.
Yeah.
Maybe the Method Actors a little bit.
And I hear a little Mission of Burma
yes,
even.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Mission of Burma was...
I mean, I don't hear it as that
right.
I don't believe they were influences, but things that... And I'm not so sure, maybe the influence goes the other way, but that there's certainly elements that you would hear that would be in common with all those things.
I remember reading an interview with Mission of Burma, and they opened for Gang of Four, and at the sound check they were like, "Oh, this is our band." They're like, they were friends immediately because they're kind of in the same thing. One of the things about this band with a name like Gang of Four, should we talk about the Gang of Four? The real Gang of Four?
Yeah, well, boy, it's turning to like
another history lesson.
Right,
yes.
A little bit of our poli-sci antecedents are showing here. Gang of Four was a group of non-Maoists, who got on the outs with Mao.
Right.
Chinese communists who were in disgrace, right?
Right.
And did not meet a good end.
Yes. So We won't
was
go.
Mrs. Mao in that group?
I can't remember. Yeah, one of the Mrs. Mao's may have been disappeared.
So we're talking Mao Zedong,
sent to the farm, perhaps.
Chairman Mao, the spiritual and political leader of the Chinese Communist Party. As
with a band with a name like Gang of Four, their lyrical content is very strident, very polemic.
Yeah, yes. Polemic is probably the most apt word, and there's like that they live the personal is political, the political is personal. Right. There's a lot of commentary on like societal roles and stultified sort of
feminism,
social roles. Criticizing, anti-feminist social structures.
So the first song, we're going to play you the first song. It's called Outside the Trains Don't Run on Time, which is a definite Mussolini reference. The
fascist Italian leader of the World War II era.
This punk rock, kid, you got to keep up on your history if you wanna go along with it. So let's hear Gang of Four from 1980, the first song on the Yellow EP, Outside the Trains Don't Run on Time. So this song, it talks about nostalgia, discipline, order, the train's not running on time, and the person in the song wanting the trains to run on time, which is, kind of a fascist slogan.
Right.
They made the trains run on time,
that was
order, discipline.
That was what led to the rise of Mussolini Italy, that he would bring order, that, sort of calling back to the heyday of Roman leadership, right? Let's make Italy great again as it was in the, last millennium.
Right. I love the guitar sound in this. There's the funky bass in the background, which is kind of a constant in Gang of Four. But Andy Gill's guitar is just. He plays in a manner that I've never really heard anyone play before. It's kind of hard to explain. It's
percussive.
Yeah.
It almost sounds
angular. You had said before.
It sounds almost like they're hitting found objects.
Yeah.
Right.
Or hitting the wrong notes, but they're not.
It's dissonant, but it's not. It's not wrong. Right. I mean, it's intentionally discordant.
Yes.
But that leads to the feeling of imbalance
Yeah.
and. Certainly that's what causes the panic in leads to the rise of fascism, people feeling off kilter.
It's not power pop.
Unfamiliar, right?
The way the music kind of washes over you is kind of unsettling.
Right.
In a good way,
And it serves the message here.
Yes, absolutely. Right? So the second song we're going to listen to is from the second side of the EP. It's called It's Her Factory. Right. And this is about as feminist as a song as you can get.
Yeah, from four dudes at the time,
yeah,
right? And later women were
four dudes in 1980.
Right.
So mad props to them. And let's listen to It's Her Factory, Gang of Four from 1980.
So homework, work in the home is the factory of women. Of women. And so you've got this gender role, stultification, being attacked, subjugation of women. And, I was mentioning later on in later iterations of Gang of Four, women were members of the group.
Right.
But at this time, this is their
the original band, four guys, and what is the lyric? The lyric is "In a man's world because they're not men."
Right. Right.
And it's I love the little melodica
Instrumentation is very unusual here.
A little tiny bit of saxophone that just kind
like
of sneaks in.
They got a squonk that they've got to bring in from time to time.
So it's a kind of a bleak song.
This isn't the happiest EP. It's pretty funny because here's Warner Brothers. Hey kids, you're gonna love Gang of Four, and then it's like, yay!
Whoa, what is all this stuff they're throwing
in? The rise of fascism. Watch out! And women are being treated badly.
I know.
Down with the system. So
So you can tell why we loved it.
Right. Spoke to this kid.
Yes. Let's listen to the last song on the record, which again takes a very kind of radical lyrical approach. It's called Armalite Rifle.
It's probably the most conventional sounding, even though it's conventional for Gang of Four rather than conventional
for any other pop band, right?
But more traditional sounding.
Extremely anti-gun song, and it also mentions the Troubles. As we had been talking in an earlier podcast about Stiff Little Fingers and about the Undertones. And so let's play a little of Armalite Rifle, Gang of Four from the Yellow EP 1980.
Use it every day, breaks down easy, the simpler plan. The child could carry it, do it no harm. Armalite rifle and the Holy Trinity, used against you like Irish jokes on the BBC. Armalite rifle, police not raid. Armalite rifle, we use every day. Rifle does harm, shoots for miles. If it gets you in the arm, destroy your insides. Armalite rifle, police not alright. Armalite rifle, use every day. Your guts out, I disapprove of it. So does John. Do you damage? Do you damage? Damage. 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 Damage.
There we go. It'll do you damage. Do you damage. Blow your legs right off. I don't know what more you can say, Fits in a pram.
Yeah. The kids are going to love Gang of Four, right?
Yeah. You saw Gang of Four live, right?
I don't think I did.
Never? No? Okay. I saw them a number of times, and I saw the early version of the band at the Agora in Atlanta. And they were amazing. The first story I really have about Gang of Four was when I was attending the South Carolina Governor's School. They now have a governor's school for the arts. It wasn't called that back then because it was so long ago they didn't even know what they were doing. They basically sent all the kids from high school who qualified, and I don't know how I qualified, to take some. We went to the College of Charleston. We stayed there for the summer. We took some courses, some college courses, and we just kind of hung out. And we had these ultra cool hall monitor people who were college guys and girls, and we had this one guy who was really into music who was on my hall, and I went into his room one time and was hanging out with him, and I think he was actually smoking marijuana. But
he's going to be retroactively fired from his hall monitor job in 1980 or 81.
Yeah, don't tell anyone. But he had this record, Entertainment by Gang of Four, which has a very arresting cover about the Indian and the cowboy. And I was looking at it, and he was playing it, and I was like, can I borrow this and put it on cassette? And he's like, sure, take it. And I borrowed it, and I copied it over, and I wore that thing out. It was like a door opened in my brain, listening to the Gang of Four. There really hadn't been anything like that for me. It really, really got me. I was hooked. And so when I saw them later at the Agora, they were really something. And I got to see them 2 or 3 more times, a couple of different periods. I saw them when Sarah Lee was playing bass back in the Songs of the Free period when they were getting a little bit more commercial. They were always a great band, and very intense, very, very, very intense.
Yeah, this is a serious band. This is not when you think about being bass forward and being funky, you're thinking, oh, dance music.
Right.
Or, especially we were talking a little bit about Pylon. Pylon's got the sparseness and the bass forwardness, but that is music to dance to. This is
fun.
More like this is music to write a term paper to, right?
I mean, they were pretty grim on stage. There wasn't a lot of smiling. There was a little bit, but they came out. They would always wear suits, and Andy Gill was just an amazing guitar player. That he would just look at his guitar and it would make feedback, and it was really something. Really enjoyed them live, is what I'm trying to say. So this is a really interesting record.
Yeah, I think that precision is one of the words that I think about with them, because it's, even though it's sparse, it's precise.
Yeah, all the parts fit in very.
It's minimalist, without being empty.
And the production is very dry. There's not a lot of reverb or echo or anything. It's very in your face. It's flat. This is what we're doing. Check it out. And it holds up to repeated listenings. I mean, listening to all this stuff again today, is really, I'm enjoying it very much. So, do you hear anybody covering the Gang of Four? This is a hard one.
Yeah, no, it's almost, maybe like a chamber music group, right? Because of the sparseness of the instrumentation, and maybe a Kronos quartet or someone, where you would get that precision and that seriousness. It's almost like it takes that type of musicianship.
Yes. Okay. I would go with that. I don't have anything better than that to say. Do you have a recommendation for today?
My recommendation would be used bookstores. Particularly, a couple times here we've been reaching for some of our, our youth's politics, right? Politics circa 78,
right?
Early
back in 80s. The midst of time.
Yeah, there was a great series pre the series for dummies. There was a great series of basic political books. I'll post a link for you.
Okay.
But it's the sort of thing in a used bookstore that you might be able to get, like sort of these stripped down beginner's guide to Marx, beginner's guide to the Vietnam War, right? So those sort of time capsules, I think would be really informative.
Yes.
That's something you're either trying to brush up on your own memories,
right,
or trying to look more into
something that might have happened
of that time, right?
just before you were around.
Right, right. I think I've got I'm trying to figure out maybe Marks for Beginners or something like that on the bookshelves at home.
And that's a good one because there's a lot to digest there.
Right. So these are not dumbed down, but they are stripped away. They're very helpful. So, going to a good used bookstore, we've got several here in the Triangle area of North Carolina, and looking for some of those period political pieces. I think that would be very helpful.
Yep.
Interesting and fun.
I don't have a political thing to recommend, but I do have a book that I've just finished. It's by Kenneth Womack. It's about the Beatles. It's called Solid State, the story of the making of Abbey Road and the breakup of the Beatles. The Abbey Road box has just come out recently. And Kenneth Womack is doing the liner notes now. It used to be Mark Lewinson. I'm not sure why Mark isn't doing it anymore, but Kenneth is a great writer as well. He wrote that book about George Martin that you gave me called Sound Pictures. So talking about the recording of Abbey Road, he definitely brings in a lot of the George Martin perspective, which is really interesting, I think. And he does talk a little bit more than your average Beatles book about the equipment. That's why it's called Solid State, because they had a new console that wasn't all tube built. It was solid state, and it caused a different sound for Abbey Road.
So Solid State sort of would have been that the state of the art between the tube era and then the digital era.
Right, exactly. So it's well written. It's got a lot of interesting recording geek stuff in it. There's a big long article, part of it, about the Moog synthesizer and about how George Harrison really got into the Moog. He got a Moog Mark III and had it shipped over, and it was this giant contraption, and they played it using the ribbon. They didn't even use the keyboard. They used the ribbon where they moved the finger across, and he did it on Here Comes the Sun, and McCartney used it on Maxwell's Silver Hammer, and it's a good book if you're into the Beatles. I'll probably be posting a review of it soon on our website, and that's my recommendation.
All right, so Gang of Four.
Yes, punky, funky polemics.
Yes.
Good stuff. Worth checking out. Anything else?
No, I think it sounds like you've got homework, but you don't. I think you'll enjoy it.
All right. Well, we will talk to you next time. Thank you very much.
Next time.
To learn more about the artists and recordings we just talked about, visit our website at zubrecords.com and click on the Singles Going Steady icon.
You'll also find links to the persons, places, and things we recommend, and much more.
You can find episodes of Singles Going Steady on our website or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Singles Going Steady is brought to you by the power and majesty of Zub Records. Zub Records. Smart sounds for sharp people.
shall begin.